Welcome to On the Table, a podcast about board games, card games, and tabletop war games. Welcome back to episode 80 of the On the Table Gaming Podcast. This week we have the privilege of talking with Bob and Max from Gamers Haven in Ohio, and they recently had their first in-person event since COVID-19 hit. We're going to talk with them about their community, how they've successfully grown their group, and what it might look like in some stores when things start to reopen. So Bob and Max, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this. This is pretty sweet. Thanks for having us.
Well, I'm so excited. I know you guys have such an awesome community over at Gamers Haven, and I'm in a part of the world right now that's still kind of largely closed up due to COVID-19. But I know you guys have recently participated and ran an in-person tournament in an area that is reopening or reopen. So I'm excited to hear about your event overall. And while we're doing on that, I thought maybe it'd be helpful to touch on what might events look like for people as we are going through these reopening phases across the world. But before we do that, I always like to hear about the context people bring to A Song of Ice and Fire. What's their background gaming experience, if any? Because I really feel like that this is such an accessible game, and it helps kind of give us a picture of what they might bring to the table when they're gaming. So, how did you guys find your way to A Song of Ice and Fire, and what kind of role has gaming played in your life?
I can jump in first. This is Max. So I've been gaming since I was, maybe like 10, 12 years old, doing tabletop games. My dad was a competitive chess player, and so he wanted to get me into tabletop games just to kind of flex my brain. He was the type of dad that made me read like Carl Sagan books and stuff. I was too young to even understand it.
This explains everything.
Yes. So, but yeah, so I've been, started off with Warhammer Fantasy, then went to Warhammer 40K, played some different games, War Machine, Hordes, Malifaux, picked up on A Song of Ice and Fire just because I like the IP, but I really missed Warhammer Fantasy's, rank and flank system. So that appealed to me as well. And at first I kind of looked at the Kickstarter and thought, well, if worst comes to worst, I'll just use all these models for D&D because they're so fantastic. And I have the privilege, so I'm a chiropractor in our community. And so the cool thing is I have the privilege of talking to a lot of people throughout a day. And so our gaming group started because I kickstarted this game, and it was when, the seasons were still going. And so people would wear Game of Thrones shirts, or I'm the weirdo that like plays the Game of Thrones soundtrack in the treatment room, treating people. I feel like epically ominous when I walk in, and it's like one of the intense songs, like the one they play when like Cersei blows up the sept. People are
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Actually, like a red wedding here. Go ahead, lie down.
Yeah, go ahead, get on damn table.
I was one of those patients.
So Bob's one of them.
Once. Okay.
Yeah. So you get to talking to people, and anytime, how you get that like geek radar where you're talking to somebody and you're like, oh, I'm nerdy. This guy knows World of Warcraft and what a D20 is. So, you just start to talk to people, and I'm like, well, hey, I kickstarted this game, tabletop game. You want to check it out? So most of our group, I think Bob included, don't have a tabletop experience prior to Song of Ice and Fire, but the IP and the game system made it so it was really easy to kind of dive into. The rule set's so clean and well designed that it was really easy to bring people with no gaming background into it. And they were just like, I like this character, I like this faction, so I want to play it. And we kind of, I harvested our original group out of just like patience. And then we have a CrossFit gym and fitness facility inside the chiropractic office too. So, you'd be working out with guys, and like our one guy'd walk in and he'd wear like, I paid the iron price for this t-shirt. The next thing you know, that guy's got like a whole army of Starks,
I just love how you're like, I have this vision in my head of you just like stalking people down. The fact that you said you harvested them, that also is sort of ominous.
Yeah, well, I play Melisandre, so but yeah, no, that's how I grew the group. And Bob kind of, Bob was one of those people working out in the gym and everything. And so he kind of came in the second wave. I had like an initial wave of people.
All right, so Bob, what I need to know is we heard from his perspective. He's sort of like the suave chiropractor recruiting people. So now tell us what it really was like. What was?
this is my first tabletop game. I swore that I would never play tabletop games because I never thought I was that nerdy, but I guess I am. No, but
Is there like, okay, so as an outside, as a, someone who doesn't come from this sort of background of wargaming, what is like this hierarchy of nerdiness? Where does tabletop gaming rank in that?
all right, so you have like I don't know, you have like your video game people that play the sports games and stuff like that, and then you've got
Yep.
like
Like the FIFA guys.
yeah, and then you have like the MMO players, or you have the Call of Duty guys. You got those guys too. I actually started playing Destiny with Max and a couple other guys from the gym too back when that first came out. And then you got like the World of Warcraft and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and then tabletop stuff like
Tabletop
that.
below Dungeons and Dragons and all of that. Oh man, okay.
We're that on the same level,
It's
right?
got to be because of Big Bang Theory, right? Like in Stranger Things, that made Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah,
cool.
probably.
I guess
Yeah.
you're right. That would make sense. Yeah, I'm a high school history teacher, and Stranger Things came out, and the kids are like obsessed with D&D. It's like the cool hip thing. I was like, that was not what it was like when I was in school.
No, I started
Ooh.
working out to defend myself because I was really into Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop gaming.
So Bob, what was it like then jumping in as your first tabletop war game?
I mean, I guess the closest thing I ever came to tabletop games is I used to. Did you ever know what the IRC chat, the internet relay chat, was when the internet first came out?
Oh yeah.
So I used to play like D&D on there, and it was like, or like there was a game, there was like this stronghold game it was called, and you could like level up your characters and stuff and play as a certain class. It was kind of cool because I was like all into the RPG stuff. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been into this type of stuff. I just never got into the tabletop games, and I knew how expensive they could get, and I didn't really like putting the pieces together, So that's where all these guys at the gym and were talking about this, and they come in on Saturday mornings and they just wouldn't shut up about songs. And I'm like, dude, you guys are such nerds. And so then I'm like, okay, you know what? Game of Thrones is awesome. Another guy, his name's Jared, he was going to stop playing it. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy your army from you. I don't care if it's painted a little bit and not to my style, because I wasn't into the painting and stuff really anyways. So I bought the Night's Watch starter kit, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I want 2 crossbows. I want some scorpions. I want 18 conscripts for later when they become good, like today.
You were just waiting. You're playing the long game here, man. That's dedication.
So I mean, I'm kind of like a completionist with it now too. I ended up getting neutrals, so then I had to get every neutral, and then I bought Targaryens, had to get all the Targaryens. Still waiting on those to come out, and I don't know. It just became this thing that I did to like get away from life,
Yeah.
So it was one of the first things I found since World of Warcraft that I could get out, not touch my phone, and not even think about touching my phone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of awesome and really like kind of therapeutic to me, and it's been fun since, because for a while there, a bunch of guys Max had a baby, he couldn't play as much. And then a bunch of the other guys stopped playing as much. I'm like, what's going on here? I thought you guys had like 12 people that played, and I was begging for games and stuff. And I ended up playing most of my games against the other guy that Max was talking about, and learning the game that way. And it was like Night's Watch versus Night's Watch every day.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So yeah. So then I really learned Night's Watch that way. That's for sure. But then I started playing tabletop sim. I found out about it, and the first time I tried it, I'm like, there's no way I could ever play on this thing. It's so clunky. And I obviously I downloaded the wrong version of it the first time around. I don't know if you've ever downloaded the original version where
the original, like the way back one.
Yeah. But you put your tray on the table and it just explodes everywhere.
Yeah.
That was the original. So I actually got my money back for Tabletop Sim, and then I bought it again because I realized I downloaded the wrong one after watching Carl play it.
Man.
I started just playing a ton on there. I was trying to get people to play on there. I was like pulling teeth to get Max to play on there for the longest time. He was if you don't have a painted army, you shouldn't be playing on Tabletop Simulator. So
I'm the painting elitist, where I'm like, don't play that stupid Tetris game. Paint your stuff.
That's because you're coming from that traditional wargaming background, right?
Exactly. So I'm like, I'll paint your entire army, and then if they don't match, you got to buy an extra unit that match the other guys.
How nice is it though? Sometimes when you just want to get a game and they're pre-made miniatures, just take them out. You don't have some like half a war machine that fell off that you're trying to like get on the base because you need the base for the measurement, but the thing isn't standing. And
yeah, that's kind of why I got into it, because I didn't have to put anything together. You know,
it's in that Goldilocks zone. Yeah, it's really
so yeah. Started playing on Tabletop, and then the game store opened, and that's when it kind of like took off big time for us. We just started getting games. I mean, at first there was 2 of us playing, and then Max was like, okay, I'm gonna get back into this a little bit more again, and he started playing again, and a few other people started playing again. And sometimes I'd play at my place. I'd have one person over. I don't have a big house or anything, and so I'd have like one other guy over. We'd play at my house. And then people started walking into the game store. We started doing it like a regular thing on Sundays. Sometimes it was Saturday, regular thing on Sundays. And people would walk in and they'd be like, oh, what's this game? This is pretty cool. And then we'd be like, oh, it's Game of Thrones. We don't say Song of Ice and Fire. We just say Game of Thrones, because then they immediately, that's the hook right there. The HBO show is called Game of Thrones. People don't know it.
That's such a good point.
We say it's Game of Thrones, The Song of Ice and Fire. It's just based on the show, a certain point, a certain point in the storyline. Not just it's based on the book, but we tell people it's based on the show, and then later, well, really, it's based on the book. And then
if they're in the gaming store, they're gonna have seen the show, though.
Right. Well, you'd have some of them that be like, oh, I just read the books. I'm like, well, even better, it's actually based off of them, you know. And you explain to them like what timeline it started in and stuff like that, and what time in the book it's taking place, and they're like, oh, that's really cool. Where can I get a starter? And we're like, oh, well, you're in luck. Brandon's carrying them right now for you. You can get the Stark and Lannister set for blah blah blah. And
Max like, reaches underneath the chiropractor chair, and he's like, what? Here it is.
Yeah,
came out of
why is this other guy in here too? He's like,
the music soundtrack comes back on.
Right. So the biggest thing we did is just go to the store and play and get people there that are having fun. And I think the biggest thing about our community is we don't have the people who are the power gamers. We don't have the people who will run to stone throwers and make your life miserable. And it's like not fun, because it's either like I'm either getting hit or I'm not getting hit. And like even like we won't have it, well, we don't have access to Mel yet, but like, and I know Max likes Mel and everything, but he won't play it every time, you know. We all like to go in there and try new lists every single time we play, and it keeps it interesting for us, and it keeps people having fun, because I might try a list. I mean, I think I'm pretty good at the game, but I'll try a list that just doesn't work, and someone will beat me, and they'll be like, yeah, beat Bob, you know, and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome, man, a good game, and it's always good sportsmanship, and it's never, we don't have people arguing, we don't have people, when it's a rules discussion, we'll go to the Discord and people will be like, okay, yeah, that's how it works, you know. But it's really cool how quickly it's built up. We had like I said, we had like two or four people playing at a time, and then we had a tournament of 16 with like 8 people asking to get in, and we went from a text group of like 10 people to a Discord of like 26 people.
That's phenomenal.
So, and it just keeps growing too, because we just had someone else buy the game this weekend after seeing or this past weekend after seeing the tournament that we ran, and how much fun people were having with it. And it just seems like the Cleveland community for this is just contagious, and it just keeps growing, and it's gotten to the point where Max and I don't have to run as many demo games, because there's other guys that know the game as much as us that they're volunteering to run them now. For a while it's like, oh man, I really wanted to play a competitive game today, but I'm like, okay, I'll do a demo.
Right. No, right. Yeah. Well, so, I know I was talking to Carl from Rolling If We Got Him, and he came up there recently for your tournament, And, I want to jump in and talk about that a little bit and how that event went. But, one of the hard things can be, it sounds like you guys have like a really great, like the great energy. The people are really nice at your store, but sometimes you still have those problems where so you've got someone who's just starting up tabletop war games for the first time, and maybe kind of like you, Bob, you're jumping in here, and then you've got someone like Max who has like a long history of wargaming, and then your store runs a tournament. Like sometimes that can it can present like its own kind of unique challenges. How do you guys, has that ever come up, and how do you guys sort of deal with
we
sort of
we have
mismatch?
we have a rule: when you demo a game, you let them win.
Oh, there
Yeah.
we go.
First rule: never win your demo game. I guess a tie is okay, but never beat the person you're demoing the game for
Just
ever,
table
unless you
them.
don't want
Turn
them
three
to play.
victory.
But you mentioned, how do you include new players in a tournament? And what we started with was, the first two tournaments we ran 30 points instead of 40 points.
Ah, all right. Yep.
Because you keep it a little cheaper. So even if someone brings like a Walder, well, okay, that's 5 points out of 30. Like, if you're gonna bring a
Right.
stone thrower, okay, that's 10 points out of 30. It's really
Right.
hard to squeeze other stuff in there. So we started with smaller tournaments, and it actually, to probably like Bob's despair and Carl's, when Carl came out for that second tournament, because they want to get more of the cool stuff on the table, and they don't
Right.
necessarily need to always bounce to stone throwers and Walders to win. But
Right.
and by the way, there's nothing against, we have nothing against people using that stuff. If it's been play tested and Cool Mini or not released it, we kind of have like a in Cool Mini we trust type thing.
Yeah.
Does it frustrate you sometimes? Yeah, but Bob and I are always the guys that look across the table and go, dude, if you want to run it, run it. Like,
Right.
even if, I don't care if it's cheesy or whatever, like, that's only my subjective perspective. Go ahead and run it. If you spent the money on it, or you painted it or whatever, get it out here, man. Play it. But we started with 30-point tournaments, and that really made it. So, like he mentioned, we had a smaller tournament first before Bob was involved. Second tournament was 16, and we had a wait list behind it, and I ended up just TOing it, not playing in it. And it was fantastic, because we had people that were very new to the game that weren't intimidated by it because of 30 points. Also, from an affordability standpoint,
Oh,
they
yeah.
kinda
Oh, my
knew
gosh.
to get in. The games were faster. The weirdest thing about 30 points is, you run a 30-point tournament, and the strange thing is, almost every game ends in a tabling. Whatever the game mode is doesn't tend to matter. It's just like, well, you have 3 units on the table, so
Right.
stuff's
Right.
gonna start dying quick. So we did that, and that, I really think that helped with the newer players and bringing them in. We encourage them. So, as I mentioned, for all 3 tournaments, I TO'd them. I didn't play in them, and I kind of reach out to the newer players that are considering playing in them, and I tell them, like, send me your list, and I'm going to give you advice. I'm going to break the rules of normal TO stuff, and I'm going to take a look at your list and make sure there's nothing in there that's just absolutely, bizarre, goofy, isn't going to work or synergize. And I kind of give them some tips. So, on the Roll 'em If You Got 'em Guys podcast, they went through all the tournament lists in this last tournament. And you'll notice there aren't too many lists that they go through where you're like, what was this guy thinking? And that's because if they're putting together a list and they're a newer player, and they see they're missing some sort of synergy or something like that, it gives me an opportunity to kind of step in and say, hey, man, why don't you think about this? Why don't you think about that? And I'm not connected to the tournament as a player. So there's none of that. And I don't think any of our experienced players really had a problem with me saying, yeah, maybe bring this, hey, free folk player, why don't you look at Skin Changers? They're
Also
over
really
there on the
great
shelf.
that it's hard, right? Sometimes in communities, like, you want to play in the game as well, and I think it's really great that you also, in this instance, took the time to be kind of like a dedicated TO that was going to kind of oversee all of this. Sometimes people try and also play in like smaller stores or events and do all of it at once, and that can kind of create some conflicts. But it sounds like you kind of were really thorough about it.
I think that the 30 points to getting people started on the game. Some people like to go right to 40 points, but I learned the game too in 30 points. Max he didn't force me to do 30 points, but when we first started playing, he like pre-aligned people against each other. So he'd put the newer players against each other. So we'd have it scheduled in advance what we're gonna play. He'd have game modes ready to go. He'd have me versus a newer player, 30-point game. And I'm like, oh man, I want to play 40 points. That's what all the cool people are playing. but it really helped me learn the game. And if you only have 3 hours to play, you might only get one game in at 40 points, but at 30 points you can get two games in, and you're going to learn a lot more getting two games in versus one 40-point game. And that's one thing that we kind of try to push the newer players to do. And the demos are almost always 30-point games, just so we can get it moving along too, and just show the core mechanics of the game. And I think that's really helped us grow as well. I think people have really liked it.
So if people out there start thinking about, hey man, after, all this quarantining and social distancing starts to wrap up, or maybe they're just reopening now, they want to get their community started up again or start from scratch. So you're saying, start small, 30-point tournaments, be really careful and deliberate about who you're matching people up. So, do this with like intentionality, right? With care, plan this out. What about, for tournaments, do you have any sort of prize support that you typically do? How do you navigate that?
Sure. So in the first couple tournaments, we did more conventional prize support. We'd get the game night kits, make sure everybody had that. And really, we'd get enough of them that everyone walked away with it. So, like our first big tournament, that 16-person one, everyone walked away with like dice bags and rulers, and a couple people walked away with like a whole unit of special edition conscripts or
Right.
spearwives, different stuff like that. But then we also, so we did a $20 buy-in on that tournament. And then we included the Targaryens had just come out. So we did a Targaryen starter as first place. We do first, second, third. Second and third, I think were both like unit boxes, like multiple unit boxes, I think 2 each. And then we did like a best sportsmanship. You got a unit box of your choice.
Oh,
and then
see,
we
that's
did best
great. I love
payment.
that.
Best sportsman's super important in our gaming group. Like that's, if I'm not gonna run a best sportsman, I don't really want to run it. Because the person who wins that is probably one of, if not the most valuable person to the tournament. And it's really cool because usually almost everyone is in the running for that. It's me, and then if my dad's up at the store, I make him kind of vote with me, and we put just like a list down of people that qualify for best sportsman and best painted. And then we might have one of his other employees, or shoot, even if like my mom or wife come up, we'll make them walk around the tables and put their people down. It's a problem because my wife knows personally like half of the people because of like the thing. So she's like, "Well, I think Bob is awesome, so let's go with Bob."
Start
like,
dropping off like muffins at the house.
Yeah. Bob is going to win the tournament. We're not making a best sportsman also. But
that's also a great way to kind of subtly reinforce the values that you guys think are important. And if there is a player who's like, man, consistently, like I'm not making the nominee for sportsmanship, it kind of sends like a subtle signal.
100%.
We kind of have like a unwritten rule. We don't want to win by someone forgetting to use a weakened token or something like that. So
Right.
if we notice something, as if my opponent forgets to do something, I'm always like, okay, hey, you could activate that NCU now. This is a new rule. You can just activate your NCU and do nothing in like the 3 NCU meta, So
Right.
you can do that, and people forget that, and they just do, and we don't like when people hope your opponents forget to do things and win. And that's kind of the attitude we've taken with the sportsmanship award of you went 0-3. Okay, were you cool about it, or were you crying about it? And I would say nobody in our group ever cries about it. They always say, "Hey, I learned something this game. Got to play 3 games today. I only paid $20 to enter. I still came home with something." And even this last tournament that we ran, it wasn't even required to pay to get in, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna throw $20 in. Yeah, let's do it." So
yeah. So Chase, I did something a little different for this last tournament. What ended up happening was Carl and Dakota from Roll 'em If You Got 'em, they live kind of far away from us, but they live not around a whole lot of game stores or anything like that. So they scheduled the date when they could come out and play with us, and it was just going to be kind of like a game day. And then I realized enough people were available, and I knew they were, semi-competitive gamers and, local fame type deal. So I was like, hey, why don't I try to throw a tournament together? But we'll cap it at 10, and that kind of leans into that whole COVID bit. So, cap it at 10 for that whole rule of 10 with gatherings of 10 people or, less. And we'll just do first come, first serve. And like our new players jumped all over it. We made sure, Dakota and Carl were in it since I was running
We
it.
drove up and be like, hey guys, we got sorry, we filled our 10.
You're not. You guys can just play each other. They actually begged me
3
when
rounds together.
Yeah. They begged me when I did the matchups to not make them play each other, which is kind of funny.
No, that makes sense though. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it was cool.
My buddy Josh and I, if we ever travel long distance to the tournaments, I don't think maybe is it 3, 4 we've done where it's we've been matched up and it's just son of a gun.
Yeah. Well, plus each other's tendencies,
right? Exactly.
Stuff like that.
They're still fun games, but
if you play a lot and maybe one of you gets the best of the other one, you kind of know the outcome already.
Right. Yeah.
So no, we did that, but I kind of put it together. Some of the guys, like Bob mentioned, our Discord's pretty active. Some of the guys had been talking about that really cool tactics board that was 3D, had stairs going up it and everything, and we have a 3D printer up at the store, and we said, hey, maybe this would be a cool prize support. So my dad and one of his staff made some of those, had one of the higher level staff painters paint it, made these really cool banners for every faction. And as factions were statistically eliminated from first place, we hung the banners on the tactics
those
board
come
around
off?
it. And then
the only picture I saw had the little Stark one in the front. That's
yeah,
amazing.
no, it's a Night's
it's a Night Watch. Night's Watch. Sorry,
Stark didn't win. That's
yeah.
How can that
I know
be?
you're used to Stark winning.
No,
I know. Yeah. What do you mean Stark didn't win? So, but we did that. We Carl, was like, hey, I'll make a dice tray for one of the people who gets top end.
Yeah.
One of our guys, Bolton Skincare, probably everyone's favorite gamer tag in all of Discord. So Bolton Skincare, he came together. He made war rigs with his 3D printer. And then my dad is he's just a giving guy, sometimes at his own expense. So he just opened up the cash register and was just giving out money to people.
Wait, what?
And winning. Yeah, Bob, I don't know. Bob took home some money too on top of
and our store closed the next day. But
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be there next tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Chase comes out. So he's like, I heard there was money.
Guys, you're going to have a line at the door. 2,000 people descended on Gamers Haven when
they weren't rioting. But anyways, we did, because it was short notice and we're trying to set up all these prizes. All of a sudden I realized I hadn't put a tournament fee in, and I said, you know what, with COVID going on and some people not being able to work or not being allowed to work, or how unemployment worked out for people, I said, you know what, we're going to do a $0 to $20 donation. If you want to make it, cool. If you don't, totally cool. It's anonymous. We're not going to single anybody out. I'm just going to, we do it kind of like, the church basket. We passed around an envelope, and I opened up the envelope. We had 10 players. We had $200 in it. So,
wow.
So everyone gave money to it. But I decided to do that again to keep it casual. So if people couldn't, they didn't have to. And they kind of did anyways. I guess that's a testament of the quality of people in our group. But I did it that way just so that people didn't feel pressured by either the competitiveness or, there's money riding on the line.
Right.
It's if you wanted to throw your $20 up, you could, but you didn't have to. And yeah, it was really cool to see everyone come together for that. We also do a best painted. So first, second, third, best sportsman and best painted. Best painted usually wins 5 paints of their choice or 3 contrast if they go with contrast. That's same deal. Me and my dad and a staff member or mom or my wife will walk around, put 3 names on a list, and then if the name keeps showing up on our list, that's the person we pick. And every single time we argue about who the first place person is. Every time.
Of course.
Actually, every time I've picked the same person, and every time I get downvoted to someone else.
That person listening right now is hey.
Yeah, it's Bolton Skincare. I just like his models, but it's a painting thing. I think everything's about style. So some people will look at certain models and be like, oh my God, that's fantastic. And then other people will be like, it's decent. And his models, just to me, he 3D prints tree stumps to go on the movement trays, and then
that's so
snow
cool.
all over them. And his units look incredible. But other people are drawn to maybe brighter colors. He uses a duller palette. He uses classic method, so he doesn't use contrast. And other people, are drawn to a different style of painting. And so I also thought the guy who won our best painted, did a fantastic job. He was up there in my votes for sure. Dave did an amazing job with the Starks. But I looked at Chris's Night's Watch, and when the other people came over, they were like, "Hey, this is our top 3." I was like, "Wait, what? hang on. How does anyone not agree with the tree stumps?"
And that's when that gets tough too, and like especially when the community's established and like the game's been out for a while, so everyone's starting to paint their stuff up. Not that you have to, but sometimes you have your army long enough, and you're like, yeah, I might as well like give it a shot. Then you start to have these like really elaborate, like well-crafted, scenic-based, armies, and you're like, well, now I've got to choose between like 6 people. Like, I don't know, they all look so good.
Yeah, Max, then we do like a worst dice award last time too. Not this past tournament, but the one back in January. We did like the worst luck award, and they got a unit box for like people who's just like rolled the most ones for the day. It was pretty cool.
We did.
Yeah, that's always, that can be a little demoralizing.
Unluckiest dude award. It's awesome because it actually went to like our most intense, like awesome guy. He reminds me of Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. Meets like a Marine, meets like a Umber Berserker. He's like somewhere in between all of that. So, but he's so awesome, and he historically rolls bad, and he rolled into a tournament, and it just kept going, and he just kept rolling bad. And my dad came up with the award. Yeah, my dad came up with the award. He's like, I can't let this guy walk out of here without anything. This was horrible. It was painful to watch.
That part where you start being like, hey, can I borrow your dice, or can I roll someone else's dice? And
yeah, we don't let him touch our dice. Yeah, we don't let him touch our dice. We're like, get away from my dice. Don't touch them.
Everyone
he walks in the store, and everyone pulls their dice a little closer and is like, yeah.
Yeah, we should have given him the dice kit with the lasers in it and stuff that your dad has.
So, one of the things is that, a lot of times now we're coming back from, social distancing. So how did you guys approach this sort of early event? Sometimes people can be a little bit nervous about it. What were you guys, what was your approach to kind of opening up? And I know people listening are going to be in all different states that have, different requirements or different numbers. I think it's pretty common. A lot of places that are starting to ease open have a number restriction, like 10 or 20 people.
Absolutely. So we do have the fortunate Gamers Haven of half the store's retail and the other half is purely gaming, with about 8 private gaming rooms in addition to about half a dozen open tables that can just be played on.
So you've got some flexibility.
Yes. So we were able to respect people. And that's a big thing with us with this whole coronavirus bit, is that like you're allowed to have your own opinion on it, or your stance, or your educated opinion, or anything like that. I am too, and as long as we respect one another, that's cool. That's fine. We can think exactly opposite of one another, and as long as we just respect one another, it's cool. And that's what we made really apparent with this tournament, was that like, look, we didn't want to disrespect anyone or anything like that. We wanted to make people feel as comfortable as they possibly could. So I opened it up that if people wanted to play in private rooms that would make them feel more comfortable, they could. When it came to the games being played, they all used one person's token. So one of the 2 players was like the token deliverer. You're only, touching your own models, you're only, rolling your own dice. So we set it up that way. We offered, gloves, masks, hand sanitizer at the front. Offered it again, before the tournament started, if anybody wanted that. As far as the rule of 10, it's rule of 10 here in Ohio, so they want you to keep gatherings to 10 or less. So that's why our tournament was capped off at 10. I guess I kind of made 11, but because the store split in half, it wasn't that challenging to kind of say, okay, well, the retail side's over there,
right?
10 people over here. So we did it that way. I had everyone sign a waiver when they came in. That just respected that, like, hey, it was respect to the store and to your fellow gamers. It essentially said, and I could send that to you if you want to have it too. It was really simple. It kind of looked like a petition, but it essentially said, hey, on this date, I understand and have done my own research regarding COVID-19. I'm gonna play in this tournament, and if God forbid I was able to, contract any illness, right, COVID-19 or otherwise, or any injury, I'm not going to take action against my co-competitors or Gamers Haven.
I think that'll probably be pretty common, right?
Right, and everybody signed it. Nobody balked at it or anything like that. It was pretty straightforward. Everyone threw the name on paper. This way, it's just a small thing that
But you're all in agreement of the values there. I think so. I've got a friend whose wife is immunocompromised, And so he's just really worried about going out there. And it's like, I can be respectful about these things, but what if other people aren't, or things like that? So it sounds like you're kind of getting everyone to be like, hey, like, we're aware that people have these concerns, and we're going to try and accommodate those.
100%. And that probably came from being a healthcare provider.
Mhm.
Chiropractors were deemed essential, so we were open through all this. And we're, be a chiropractor, you got to touch people all day.
Yeah.
And so, and you're talking to people all day. You'll go in one room and the person's like, COVID's not a real thing. It's completely fake. And then you go in the very next room and they're like, Doc, are you going to let people come in here without masks? Because if you are, I'm never coming back here.
Oh,
So
man. Yeah.
I had to figure out really quickly how to navigate that and kind of play like I had to play the neutrals and just kind of balance between and kind of make sure that everyone was happy and comfortable and felt respected in the facility. And so that kind of just bled into the gaming bit too. Because at first, I'll be honest, like even our Discord got a little inflamed when this COVID thing hit, and all of a sudden it became not about Game of Thrones, and all of a sudden we're talking about COVID and stuff. And we tried to really pull that back and say, like, look, we do this to get away from real life issues. Let's try to limit that. I mean, we're concerned for anybody. God forbid anyone or their relatives catch it. Our hearts go out to you. But let's try to keep this more about Game of Thrones. And I kind of opened it up to everybody too, say like, hey, as a healthcare provider, if you guys want to talk to me about it, I'm happy to talk to you about it or talk to you about the science, virology, immunology, anything like that. But in here, let's just keep it Song of Ice and Fire, Lord Bob, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, best player, stuff like that,
I think that's important. Like, that's something we kind of struggled a little bit to think about. Like, how do we address that even on like on the table gaming or in our podcast? And really, in the end, it's like gaming is a way to relax and to kind of get away from a lot of those things. So I think, yeah, it's important to like find that right balance. And in the end, it's like it's about respect and making sure that it is a space that people can enjoy. It sounds like you guys got a really good approach and idea on how to craft a community and like maintain that.
Thank you. Yeah. We're lucky, and Bob is one of those guys too. He's really, really lighthearted, so he does a good job of diffusing things. Sometimes he can get protective of like the gaming store or something like that. But Bob, I'll let you jump in and kind of give your thoughts on the COVID, how we handled COVID as even like a player in the tournament, maybe me as a TO, but maybe he pipes up and says like, I thought it was stupid. And I wrote the wrong name on your petition and whatever. So yeah, I mean, Bob, what did you think?
I mean, I thought it was good. I didn't have a problem with anyone, and nobody complained about it at all, which was awesome. And we all said, hey, if anybody has problems with this, then they wouldn't be here, and that's perfectly fine. So we were all perfectly fine with that. We knew there were some people that weren't going to come because of it, and that's another reason why we kept it small too. We didn't want people in our community either like looking at us as far as, hey, these guys are having 20 people in the store at once for a tournament.
Right.
I don't want to hang out with them anymore. We didn't want that. And that's one of the coolest things again about our community is we all try to be on the same page. We all have our own opinions, but we try to keep any arguing about things to the game, arguing about rules and stuff instead, But no, it was really well run. The store was super clean when we went in, and I mean everything got clean when we left, and it was perfect. It was just like what a lot of us needed. We needed to get away, and we needed to actually have that real social interaction with people that's been missing. Tabletop Sim's great, but nothing is like getting those minis on the table.
Yeah.
There's the
tactile part.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it was a fun tournament. All of them have been great. It's just been the first one we did 4 games and it with 16 people, and it took a long time, but all the games finished, no time constraints or anything like that. But yeah, I think it was really well run, and it was a lot of fun. Always is when we play with these guys.
Well, that sounds amazing. And I think as we start to see the rest of the nation, and maybe I guess globally, I guess we do have, it's an international game. as people start to ease back in, it might be kind of cool for other people to think about kind of doing like a welcome back, like mini tournament, like nothing, extravagant, right? We still want to be careful, and have like a second wave or something, but having some smaller events to help, rebuild and reaffirm and welcome people back to your communities, that could be really, really cool. And it sounds like, if you're ever out in Ohio, that Gamers Haven, you guys have, such a great stop. So maybe have people swing by if you're out that way. And then any shout outs you guys want to give?
Sure. So, first one, obviously you hit it, but Gamers Haven, Parma Heights, Ohio. My dad owns it. That's kind of a dream come true too. He retired from construction to run that store for us. But come on out, play with us, get get your song stuff there or any tabletop gaming stuff there. Another one, the Roll 'em if you got 'em guys, Carl and Dakota. They're fantastic. They come out and game with us. They're in our Discord too. If you guys are interested in jumping into our Discord, even if you're not really in the area and you just want to talk tactics and BS, we tease each other relentlessly. So if you're not used to being heckled nonstop, don't ask to join our Discord. But otherwise, if you reach out to me, I'm Iron Cairo in the Discord, or Bob, Samuel Tarley, or any of the guys who shoot Chase. I think you're in it now. We're happy to invite you in and just have more people to talk about songs. So that that Northeast Ohio Discord group for song is awesome. And then Chase, I really want to thank you too.
Geez.
You've been the podcast that I've stuck with, from the very get go onwards. So not to just kiss your butt too much, but like all of the guys in our group listen to your podcast. So Bob mentioned there's 26 to 30 of us. We all listen to it. And the absolute enthusiasm that you have for the game is just unrivaled in any other cast. And I really like some of the other ones and the different strategy and the different way people talk about the game. But my favorite thing about yours is that whether it's your faction or it's a faction you won't play or anything like that, you're excited for the direction of the game. You're excited for where it's going. You never really get hung up too much on like, this is too OP, this is too underpowered, this is how I would change the game, this is how I wouldn't. You're just a true fan of the game, and that shines through in your cast.
Jeez, man! All right, now I'm blushing. That
so
was
keep
I
that
did not
up,
expect
man. That's
okay.
So,
yeah.
So your beard's turning red. No. It's been fantastic to be, just a listener of your cast through all of this, and Josh too. It's been awesome. So, and that when Bob mentioned that we got a chance to chat with you here on a podcast, that was really cool. I got to feel famous today, so that was awesome too. So, big shout out to you. I know our guy Bolton Skincare is starting up Sunday Slaughter on Twitch, so check out Sunday Slaughter on Twitch from Bolton Skincare. He's going to be trying to stream our games when we play and show some battle reports.
Yes, absolutely.
We talked about doing some little roundtable tactics talks too. So him too, and then Bob. Did I steal all of them, or you got some extra ones too?
Yep, you took all of them. I was gonna mention Chris, Bolton Skincare.
Oh.
He's a videographer, so he has a really cool setup. Chase, I sent you a little clip before.
I saw that little teaser here, so now I'm really excited for things to come.
Yeah, so we really the problem is trying to find time to get these together and stuff with our.
Yep.
But he's gonna hopefully do these battle reports, and it's gonna be really nice for newer players to watch and catch on to these, because he has all like the really cool overlays of what the card does when it pops up, and
that's
how many
awesome.
dice are being rolled and stuff like that. So I can't wait to do that with him. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And again, Gamers Haven, it is Northeast Ohio area. So if you're ever up this way, let us know. And then shout out to Max too over here. He's been awesome for the group and stuff. I know I'm shouting out someone in the podcast.
No, that's
okay.
And the funny thing is, he's been really a strong supporter of the game in the A Song of Ice and Fire Discord for a while. I feel like I've seen your name so many times, and it was like, how did we never actually like really connect until now?
Because he was always in the Free Folk channel for the longest time.
Right.
So shout out to the Night's Watch players. You guys are the best.
I'm cutting that. That's getting bleeped. That's
yeah.
But shout out to everyone. Keep pushing your community. Don't make it fun for everyone. Make it easy going. Have fun with them, and just grow it. play the game. Go to stores and play the game. You don't have. We've tried the social media route and everything, and it works a little bit. But people coming in that don't even know what the game is are going to start playing it if they see you playing it and having fun. So just go out, have fun, and just talk about it and teach people and let them win their demo game. Okay.
That's the real secret. That's the real takeaway. Let them win the demo game. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. And guys, I will put a link down in the show notes to roll them if you got them. They have a great podcast that they've gone over the more details of the tournament event. Carl and Dakota are amazing. In fact, this is being streamed in advance if you're listening to it, but in 10 minutes, they're going to be doing a stream on Twitch where they're showing off some of the newest Song of Ice and Fire builder features. So those guys are amazing. So check out their channel and subscribe on YouTube and check out their Twitch stream as well. And, once again, guys, thanks so much for coming on and thank you for the kind words and for, helping build such a great community for this game. We need as many, these awesome communities, helping get things started back up again after these sort of, past difficult few months here. So, keep at it.
Really appreciate it.
We can't end any other way. So I gotta, in the meantime, guys, I hope you get your miniatures on the table.